And we're live. Hooray! Dear God. Okay. So we're doing this on two different channels. I am not in the Discord, so your people are having trouble hearing me. Discord. Which one? The, No?
I'm fixing audio.
Which Discord do you want to be in?
Probably bullshitting around.
Oh, okay.
But pretty sure they can hear us either way.
Yeah. Alright, I'm going into Discord, just so that it's easier for your people to hear me. Alright, so now that we have that done and over with. Alright.
Betty Sketty back it out.
So we're here with the story of the Ruins of Ragfire game that I decided to run. I was gonna have a lot of players in it, and I didn't, because I wasn't really thinking very well.
We were planning to have a shit ton of people, and only like four of them showed up.
4 or 5, yeah.
It was literally me, Justin, Jonathan, and whatever the fuck his name is.
Yeah.
The dick.
Yep.
But, backstory on Justin and my character is basically they were brothers. Well, they are brothers, Crassus and Graves, and they grew up in a very unstable home and went off to be vampire hunters. And it was a very successful business. And one day they went into a old abandoned ruin, and Crassus got knocked unconscious, and Graves was cursed with vampirism.
Which he then went to some priest, I can't remember who, and he got it removed, but unfortunately now he's cursed with the type of immortality where you die, but within 3 days you come back. So you're stuck living forever, yet dying every time. So your character experiences death every time, but he comes back. That after like 20 times of dying, that's gonna take some mental strain. That's gonna be like, what the fuck is happening to me?
So then the story started off in a very unusual way.
Well, shouldn't we explain at least Jonathan's character's backstory?
Jonathan, he played a
female pirate. Hold on, where is Jessica Brightwood?
She was a very virtuous character. And was very fond to be around.
Yeah.
Very enjoyable, good company. And it was actually pretty interesting, half of the stuff she did. And I have never played with somebody like Jonathan before, and that was great, because this is one of the first games we played.
Look at all the shit he has in his inventory.
Yeah, he kept track of
everything.
Yes.
I remember hearing him one time. I asked him if he could find something in his inventory. He's like, hold on. I can hear him scrolling down, up and down for about 30 minutes trying to find this one thing.
Yeah, he had like 20. He had a bunch of bodies, bunch of bones, some Hydra heads, Hydra blood vials, teeth, experimental tissue.
The fact that you guys tried to kill people with the Hydra blood.
Zombie, fragments, bunch of shit.
So, the story starts off where you guys were summoned to a part of the I have the world map up. You guys were summoned to a part of the Badlands.
Go ahead and throw the world map up so
Oh, yeah,
I can
so
see
that you
it.
guys can see. Hold on.
Well, actually, isn't it in the handout? No, it's not. Okay.
Son of a bitch.
Oh,
I made
yeah.
a map so that we
This
could...
guy, Gothak, he comes in later. Don't worry about him right now.
Yeah, right now, he comes in a bit later. So, it started off where you guys were running through. You guys had been sent to a part of the Badlands by a goddess. Or summoned to a part of the Badlands by a goddess. They were becoming over-infested with the dead and everything. And she thought that it was the god of death. Like the actual god of death. Where, in fact, it turned out to just be a little avatar of the god of death who was not having fun in his position of guiding souls to the underworld. So he decided to go rogue. Which, I accidentally gave them the weapons way too soon to just kill him.
Well, we did start off and we were given ability to alter and control certain elements.
Yeah. Like, yours was, fire?
Mine was fire. Crassus was
Earth. And then, Idiot, the asshole, was wind. I forget what his name was. Oh, I can look at his name. Gazaran.
Gazaran was air, and Jessica was water.
Yeah.
And so basically, we went through 5 minutes, and Jessica said one thing, and Gazaran turns around and punches her and knocks her unconscious with one punch.
That was terrible.
And
Really was.
he was the paladin.
Yeah. That's the fucked up part. The paladin got offended and punched a lady unconscious.
So we spent about the next half hour running around the same part of the dungeon trying to bandage her up to get her back to her full hit points.
Yep.
With really shitty medic skills.
Uh-huh.
But eventually we got there. And Gazaran he was more of a monk than a paladin.
Yeah.
He didn't carry a shield or a sword. He would just punch things with his fists.
Yep.
But he had like these brass knuckle things or whatever. I don't even know what he made. But he was punching a lot of things. And that's all he would do.
Yeah.
And we would try and go through the dungeon like cautiously and making sure none of us actually die. And he would be the one to just go barreling into a room, ask what he can see, and if there's nothing, move on, even if it's not his turn.
Yeah.
So there have been times that we have moved his character off into the black abyss, where he can't see his character, so that way he stops fucking moving.
Yeah. He decided that it would be a good idea when the God of Death showed himself to you guys to keep trying to attack. And the God of Death then promptly, not wanting to deal with this weakling, kept blowing him backwards into the room, and Gazaran, being himself, kept getting up and charging. And it's like, dude, I get it, you're a half-orc with Berserk, but at some point your character would realize this isn't working.
Well, there was also the fact that before we went anywhere and we were still talking to this goddess when we first entered, Gazaran's intelligence was extremely low.
Yeah.
So she gave us all something.
Yep.
Because
his intelligence was low. It wasn't that his wisdom was low. If it was his wisdom, I could have dealt with it. but it was his intelligence. The shit you need to, like, keep your character breathing.
Exactly. And he liked playing the
Dumbass.
element of a retard.
Well, I don't say that. It's
No.
not like offensively, just kind of just being like he wanted to play a mentally challenged person in a D&D campaign.
He wanted to play someone that would just go barreling down to suicide.
Yep.
And then when his character died, he didn't want to play anymore.
So I tried to keep him alive so that he would actually keep playing, because he was a fun kid.
He had some pretty great moments, but
yeah.
He was a very, very big dick.
Yeah, I had no quarrel with him until that one incident.
And she gave Gazaran knowledge. Jessica asked for payment,
which she got promptly.
Crassus, I don't remember.
She gave Jessica payment, and then Gazaran asked for more. Gazaran, being a greedy asshole, asked for more than just the knowledge, and
she took away gold instead of giving it to him, and that was pretty funny, and that's what made him pissed.
Well, if you are greedy and ask the goddess of life for too much, what is she going to do? She's going to punish you for it.
Crassus?
He didn't ask for much. I don't even remember what he asked for. I think she gave him the Instant Fortress.
And that was it. He didn't ask for anything.
No, he didn't want anything.
Graves didn't want anything, but was given demon armor and the Defender Greatsword.
Mm-hmm.
Which was really, really weird. And the Defender Sword bound to him when it was given.
Mm-hmm.
So they were running through the dungeon, and they came up to a certain room with a chest in it. Gazaran, being Gazaran, ran straight into the chest and got shot with an arrow out of the wall, and then opened it.
And promptly wanted everything inside.
He was one of the ones that was one of those players that was like the loot hog.
Murder hobo. Taking everything off of corpses, taking everything, and not even giving a shit who was in front of him. He wanted to kill them.
He would literally, if he was in the back of the group, he would literally push and punch all three of us to get past and in front.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the stupid ass thing. But one of the chests that we opened, there was a fire sword and a ice sword. So Graves, being controlling of fire, he took the fire sword, and Jessica took the ice sword, because it's a form of water.
Yep. And Gazaran asks, is there anything else in there? No, there's got to be something else in there. There's got to be something for me. I'm like, no. There doesn't always have to be something for everybody.
And Gazaran was pissed for the longest time because he wouldn't get anything. Though he's the one that would get the most experience out of all of us, because he would just go and punch everything.
Mm-hmm. He really would.
And so when we finally got to the God of Death, well, the Avatar, really.
Yeah.
Azmodan would sit there and laugh at us and tell us what we are. And then I took out the fire sword and stabbed him in the chest. And his face went completely white.
Yeah, he realized he had made a mistake by standing there and just taking the stab. He's like, I'm invincible. Oh shit.
And at that point in time,
You guys were what, level 3-ish?
I want to say we were level 4, 5?
Yeah, 4 or 5. Because I had driven you through a few ogres, some tougher enemies.
We spent like a good 2 sessions maybe getting through all of that.
Mhm.
And we leveled up quite a bit because we just threw goblins, ogres, zombies,
Yeah.
just kept throwing stuff.
Yeah.
And then bonus experience for creativity.
Yep.
And then we finally got there. But as Graves stabbed him in the stomach with the fire sword and his face turned white, Jessica sat down and called upon Davy Jones' locker to get the spirit of her father to come and talk to her. And that she got a crit success on. So her father instantly appeared, and they were talking for a bit, and then he saw that his daughter was in trouble, and Asmodan was fucking with his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So he got a little angry, and he didn't much care for the rest of us in the party.
It was more just Jessica.
It was her, but she told him that we saved her. Which is weird that she didn't say anything about Gazaran. But Graves and Crassus were very protective over Jessica after Gazaran one-punched her.
Yeah.
Graves was a two-handed fighter, a great weapon fighter, and Crassus was a sword and shield fighter.
Mm-hmm.
And then her father ended up helping kill Asmodan. And as he died, he disappeared, and there was his scepter.
You
wand.
picked it up because it said whoever holds this scepter becomes basically a god of death. And you're just like, I want it. And you picked it up.
No, I picked it up to protect it from Gazaran because my character saw that he was running for it.
Mm-hmm.
And my character is like, oh no, the fuck you don't.
Yeah. You didn't want him getting that kind of power.
So I picked it up, not realizing it would do it to the touch, and I was instantly covered in a black cloak.
Yeah.
And then made like the fake avatar for a while. And we would run through. We ran through a little bit of the dungeon, and it was fine.
You ended up getting teleported to another place. You ended up teleporting them to another place, didn't you?
That was later. We
yeah.
continued through the dungeon, and we went into another section of this
fort.
I want to say it was like an underground castle, or
it
like
was,
it was the barracks under the castle or something.
Yeah, it was the barracks underneath the fortress. Yeah.
So we were running through it, and Asmodan appeared again, and took back his power, and somehow Graves managed to persuade him out of being the god of death.
Yeah, Oh, you bring back his wife.
I bring back his wife after he made me his Grim Reaper.
Yep.
And then he showed up and got pissed because I bring somebody back, and then he saw that it was his wife. And he gave up everything, all the powers, and gave it to me.
Because you gave him his wife.
And then I gave Jessica her father back.
Yep. I remember that. You gave her father back, which she was very thankful for.
Yes, she was. And then they wanted to go to this other place, and you had informed me that I was able to now teleport everyone.
Because you were basically a god. How could you not do that?
Oh, yeah. And there's also that part that we left out. While we were in the dungeon, there was a time where, before Asmodan showed up again, the goddess came and went through Graves' chest and took the black orb of power out of him and ran off. And then it appeared near Gazaran, and he
No, it wasn't that it appeared near Gazaran. It was that he had taken you as his patron god for his paladin stuff. So he basically locked his own power onto the power of that orb and was trying to pull it away from the goddess. Which somehow he succeeded. I think it was like with a natural 20. He succeeded in taking it away from the goddess, tried to grab the orb, and it ended up killing him.
It turned him into a ghost. And somehow we got him to be revived again.
Oh, you took the scepter and put the orb on the scepter.
And then put his soul back into his body.
Yeah.
And then we continued around, and we found this suspicious room with this door. So we opened the door, and there was a woman laying on the floor on a bedroll covered up in blankets and everything. And there was the goddess, the true goddess, sitting next to her.
Yep.
And we still don't know if, well, me as a player, or us as players, we still don't know if we killed the actual goddess or the one that was pretending, but we killed the lady on the ground that was laying there sleeping, but talking with her eyes closed. So you don't know if she was sleeping or just in a major trance.
She was, I can't say because we are still planning to play this campaign.
Well, that is
up to me, yeah.
That is way, way far back. It has been, like, what, 4 months in game since we started this?
Yeah, true. But I still can't say anything because that storyline may come back around. I don't know yet.
It's all dependent on you.
Yeah.
But after that, Gazaran went around trying to find anything useful, but he just found gold.
Which he tried to take all for himself. And then was promptly stolen from him.
Not at that moment, but he had a bunch of gold, yet paladins don't carry a lot of gold.
They really don't.
But anyways, he was changing towards an anti-paladin. So because he took me on as his deity. And so we continued to go throughout the campaign. We teleported onto a
Onto an island where you guys then had to fight through.
No, we teleported into a cove. No, you're right. You're right. We teleported onto an island first.
Where you guys then had to fight through a long dungeon thing to get to Jessica's father's ship.
But before that, out from a hole came a Hydra, which at the time we had no idea it was a Hydra. And it stood there ready to kill us and then looked at Graves, now portraying himself as the god of death, trying to hide it so it's not like everything knows what he is and gets scared. But this Hydra got scared absolutely shitless.
Yeah.
It got so fucking scared, and it just lowered its head and said, "Cut off as many as you want." So Jessica, being, "Oh, I can use alchemy," cuts off like 20 heads. And because we have the instant fortress and the way it was being used, we could just take the heads and throw them in there and they'll just go into the alchemy station.
Well, no, she had to put them in the alchemy station, but you had the instant fortress up for a little while so you can move everything in there. And I had been running it where anything you put in the fortress shrunk down with it and was able to be left in there, which was convenient when players weren't there so that we could just say, hey, they went into the instant fortress to sleep. Basically.
Exactly. It was a very big convenience.
Yeah. It helped a lot with player absence. So.
Which, personally, was a great plan. It works way better than to have just the character standing idly around.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're gone. What is this character doing? Oh, he's just gonna follow and not do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Why? So, but instead, it's like, hey, they're in there sleeping, or they're in there blacksmithing or whatever.
You guys, after the Hydra, you fought through this dungeon, which you fought, I think, what was it? An ogre or some shit?
We came upon a bunch of kobolds that surrounded everyone. And
who was it that got knocked unconscious?
We sat there, and Gazaran went up and punched one of them. So I used my powers to paralyze him and take away his power to call upon me for temporarily.
Yep.
So he just fell face first into the sand, and the kobolds started beating him and like teabagging him. And I swear, it was the funniest thing. Just the way it was described was just hilarious.
I think at least one of them pissed on him. At least one of them.
3 of them did. One on his face, one on his chest, and one on his leg. And after that, we went through the dungeon. Yes, we fought a ogre, which really wasn't a problem for us, but also while we were on the beach, we spent a few days on the beach gathering supplies and making sure we were ready, because we went to this island for a ship that was hidden in a cove by Jessica's father. And we were going to use it to escape. So we were sitting on the beach and she decided to make a rifle. And which she succeeded on.
Mm-hmm.
And then she wanted to make the weapon able to, when she fires, if she wanted to use a spell slot, then she can make it create a chromatic orb.
Yeah, which sounded really damn cool.
Which she actually succeeded again on making it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was allowed. And she used it once.
Yeah. I think that's just because she had to, her player had to leave the campaign, which is unfortunate.
Well, yeah, but she made the rifle, and then we went down and got on the ship. And out in the middle of the ocean, what would you say it was? Like 2 days into the 4-day journey?
Yeah, I think so.
I used the power to make a feast so that we wouldn't go hungry.
Yep.
And Gazaran, at that point on the boat, was so fascinated with Graves' sword that he wanted it and wanted to touch it and wanted to use it and all this and all that. And then when he said, no, it's bound to me, he started to go towards the flaming sword.
Mm-hmm.
And
he wanted something to be his magic weapon, because apparently everyone else had one and he didn't. Which, literally, like, you and Jessica were the only two with magic weapons. And that's because Jessica made her own and you were granted them by a goddess.
Exactly, and then found one in a chest.
Yeah.
But at that time, I then again used the powers. This is like the last thing I did before it completely drained me and I passed out.
Mm-hmm.
I summoned up 2 swords. I summoned up a 2-handed weapon that looked like mine, but had different properties. And it was given to Gazaran. And I had conjured up a Vorpal sword, a regular Vorpal sword,
Mm-hmm.
and gave it to Crassus because he never asked for anything. He never got anything. So I gave him something, which he never uses it anyway. He sticks with his original longsword, which isn't that big of a deal. I mean, if you're comfortable with what you know, stick with it.
Yeah.
What I'm thinking is, his process of idea is I'm going to use this sword until I roll a crit 1 and break it.
Yeah.
Then I have the Vorpal sword, so that way if I roll a crit 1 on the Vorpal sword, I don't break it, and then I have a useless dinky shit. But as Gazaran was holding the sword, it had a voice, and I believe the sword had properties that he could make a crit he could make an automatic crit if he used his life source.
Mm-hmm. If he spent 2 hit points, he could make an automatic crit. But he never used it. Never.
He never used it, and those And if he used the crit twice in a day, the more he used the sword, the higher the hit point
cost would be.
And once it gets up to 10 hit points, then the hit points going down starts to get permanent.
Mm-hmm.
Once it got to 10 hit points, if he used it again after that, he would lose 2 hit points permanently.
Yep.
And then would increase every time he used it over that amount of times.
Which it reset every day. So they were going into a few fights every day, but he wouldn't use the ability of the sword. I gave him a magic weapon that he could use, and that was a really good magic weapon, and he didn't want to use it.
After we killed Azmodan, we were shot up to 15.
Yeah.
Because we were not supposed to be able to kill this god. And it completely turned the Ragfire campaign in the opposite fucking direction.
It's just fine.
We were supposed to go through this entire campaign working our asses off, and we just murder a god and get jumped to 15. And while we were on the boat and Gazaran was messing with the new sword, Jessica proceeded to come over to his character and perfectly stealth and perfectly take Gazaran's coin purse and puts it on her belt and walks away. And Gazaran, metagaming, turns around and says, "Hey, give me my money back."
And I'm like, "No, you don't know. You have no idea." And he's going nuts, saying, "Well, but and I'm like, "No, you don't know. There is no way you know this. I'm sorry, but no."
He got mad and then he left. He came back about 10 minutes later because at the time that he left, we were about to take a break anyway. So he left, and when he came back, he didn't care about it as much anymore, and then had his character reach down to grab his coin purse so he can sit up against the mast of the ship flipping a coin, and that's when he noticed that his coin purse was gone, and then he started freaking out.
He freaked out, and I said, "Roll an insight check." He rolled, and I'm like, "You have no idea who took it. You don't know."
And metagaming again, he walked straight up to Jessica and said, "Give me my money." So at this point, we're like, okay, fuck it. We're tired of this. Jessica, what are you doing? She stands there and takes out his coin purse and another coin purse that she keeps on second hand that's much, much smaller. And she rolls a crit persuasion and gives him the smaller coin purse that only had 50 gold in it. He had about 1,500 gold, and he got 50 gold left. And him not wanting to accept it, got pissed and started doing everything he could to not take the purse and take back his old one. He tried to sleight of hand. He tried to punch her at one point, and Graves got in between him, and he backed up immediately.
We forgot something. Thalak had come in a long time before this, during the first dungeon. You guys had walked into the tavern portion of the barracks.
Thalaka's different
sorry.
game.
Gothak. You guys had walked into the tavern portion of the first barracks that you were in, and just found him drinking away, and because he was from another campaign that Graves had been a part of. So
No, this was us going on this ship was before we met Gothak. We got to the city, met him, then we started some trouble shit in the city, then we had to flee, and that's when he was on the ship with us.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But anyways, back to the story. So he ran away and eventually took the 50 gold, and then proceeded to hate Jessica over it and like do whatever he could to mess with her stuff.
Which I promptly blocked almost every time.
Yes, you did. And she put fail-safes on everything.
I felt somewhat bad for blocking his attempts, but he did the one thing you can't do in D&D, and that's hold a metagame grudge.
Yeah.
You just can't do that. And he just kept it going for so long, and I couldn't allow it.
He also wasn't comfortable with Graves being the blacksmith, Jessica being the alchemist, and Crassus being the leather worker. He wanted to make his own weapons, and we explained to him it would take a long, long time for you to actually make your own weapons and increase their durability. And he said, I don't care, I'ma do it. So he's sitting there trying to improve his dagger, and he ends up breaking 2 daggers while trying to do this.
Mm-hmm. Which we thought was hilarious.
And he got so frustrated with it. And I'm just sitting there like, dude, why won't you let someone who's actually got professions in blacksmithing to do this for you? He's like, I want to do it myself. I'm like, okay. So I never fixed his armor. I never fixed his shield. I never fixed his...
Even though you could have done all of it.
I could have done all of it. And he decided that he wanted to do it himself, which actually lowered his armor class because he put dents in his armor that shouldn't be there.
I will be right back. I need a drink. But he was just... I feel bad for saying it. He was a terrible player. He was a murder hobo. He was an idiot sometimes. He just didn't get it.
Exactly.
And it's not that being a murder hobo is bad all the time, but in a campaign where not everyone's being a murder hobo, it's bad to be a murder hobo.
No, because the Ragfire, we started off being murder hobos. Yeah, because we were in a dungeon full of shit to kill.
Yeah.
But after we got out and we got around, it wasn't about just killing everything. It was more role play.
Yeah, and I wanted you guys to get into more role playing aspects because that's the way I like to run my games. I love having combat, but there's also role play to it.
Role play brings out way more creativity in people than actual fighting. That's just personal experience.
Like the campaign where your dad was running and I was playing the Dwarven Cleric, and you were playing Gothak.
Exactly.
And you picked me up and threw me because there was a line of skeletons.
There was 10 skeletons, five each in a line, side by side, and I picked you up and just spun around and threw you down the hallway, and you took out your shield, held it in front of you, and you mowed 5 of them down.
It was hilarious. And your dad's like, okay.
The bad part that really pissed him off, that I could see it in his face, is I rolled a crit success on throwing you.
And then after you threw me, it was my turn, so I'm just like, okay, now that I'm here,
Shatter.
thunder.
You cast Shatter, and the rest of the 5 just plopped, and he's like, "Oh my god, I spent so long trying to plan this, and you guys murdered all my skeletons in 5 seconds."
Well, if you're gonna make an encounter for 5 people, make it harder.
It was also that we had my little sister and everything, so they weren't very much into it. But so he was a very, very strange person. And then after he refused many times of help, we then had an encounter that lizard men appeared on the ship.
Yep, and they attacked you guys, and you fought them off, which was a pretty nice fight. They bashed at you and everything.
There was one point where I believe Crassus was taken overboard and dragged beneath the water. And Graves jumped off the boat, landing on the water like Jesus, and just knelt down and stared at the lizard man holding Crassus. And the lizard man just shit himself.
Mm-hmm.
So I stabbed him in the forehead and picked Crassus up and threw him back onto the ship. And then Graves then proceeded to get back on the ship himself.
And you guys killed all the little minions. And the last lizard man, the chief of this little lizard man tribe, is like, "Oh, you've killed all my men, but thank you because that gives me more power." And he turned into this giant lizard man thing.
He turned into this giant thing, and everyone was intimidated. And besides me, Crassus was scared, but he was like scared but not enough to run.
Yep.
Jessica was kind of like, "Oh shit," and kind of ran and hid behind cover. Gazaran ran over and tried to punch him. He picked him up and kept holding him in his hand.
Yeah. Oh, he kept trying to crush him. That was the thing that he was doing. He was trying to crush Gazaran.
And Gazaran kept rolling high enough to succeed his Constitution saving throw, or Strength saving throw, to not get crushed.
Yeah.
And
he couldn't save to get out of the grip, but he could save to not be taking more damage from the grip itself.
Right. So then I started talking shit. And he would talk shit right back. So I asked how it would feel to get your arm blown off. And he's like, "How would you know how to do that?" So I pointed at his arm and it exploded. And he writhed in pain.
As it grew back.
But it hurt like fuck.
Yep.
So I found entertainment in this and decided to sit there
and I just
continuously blowing his arms off.
I just made it so that these limbs being blown to pieces weren't really doing damage, more as just like a role play, let them have some fun thing.
It was more fun than damaging. Because we had rolled initiative and everyone was attacking, and Graves would take his turn just to blow off his arms. Which was pretty funny. And then when they finally killed it, it was laying there. Graves went over, blew off his arms, legs, and then asked how, and then told him to grow his balls back as I exploded his dick.
Yep.
So
that was just terribly painful and just...
And that is the point where he bled out.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what killed him.
So you guys ended up pushing this enormous body overboard, kept going.
Not after we got like blood samples and everything
Yeah.
for alchemy, because she wants it. And we continued on the 2 days, relatively quiet.
Then on the third, it was odd. There was a fog. I remember saying that there was a fog, and you guys were going through, and Jessica just decided, I'm going to roll perception. And I'm like, you can see a very large shadow moving under the ship.
No, that was with Gothak around.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait, no, so now you guys made it to port.
Yeah, we made it to port. I forgot the city's name.
Port Malin.
Oh, it's right there. What am I doing?
You're getting confused because there's 2 ports that you can see. Tallwater and Port Malin.
Yeah, I said I forget what it's called, yet I can read. Tallwater Port and Port Malin.
Yeah.
Like, pick one. So we arrived at Port Malin, and it was very, very busy. And we were walking, but Gazaran had jumped off of... No, Jessica jumped off of the ship onto the dock. Perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Gazaran went to do the same thing and fell in the water. So Jessica then picked him up and...
Oh, she
picked him up out of the water.
With the water controlling powers that I gave you guys.
And she tried to place him on the...
on the dock.
She tried to place him on the dock, got a critical failure.
No, she got a crit. She got a natural 20, and I'm like, okay. Instead of placing him softly, you drive him through the fucking dock and back into the water.
At that point, he's like, I'm just going to use my powers, create an air bubble around my head, and just start walking up the shore. It was great.
It really was.
Because then Jessica's sitting there trying to figure out what she did wrong, as she just sees Gazaran just walking under the dock, just walking up. And that was pretty funny. Just to me, anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, Jessica got some pretty good laughs out of it.
Yeah, she did. She really did.
And then we were walking into the town, just leaving the ship, and there was this boy. And these 2 guys were coming up to him and demanded money or something like that. So they brandished daggers and put it to his throat. Graves started to come closer to them, and the boy, I forget what he did. I don't remember what he did.
I don't remember.
But they fucking, like, ran. He did something and they ran away. And then I was talking to him for a bit and started to like the kid, but he was apparently some sort of nobility. So he went on his way, and we went to a tavern. And in this tavern, there was a bunch of people, and at the bar, a very large, very
drunk Goliath
barbarian.
Yep.
And this was Thalak.
No.
Not Thalak.
Gothak.
Gothak. My bad. Fucking Alexandria Blaze.
I did it
Okay.
earlier too, so.
So,
Fine.
the story behind Gothak is that to be honest, it was my first campaign, and my dad ran this campaign with me and all my friends, and it was one of the tabletop ones.
Mhm.
It wasn't online, it was tabletop, so it was a lot more fluid. And my dad had been watching Critical Role, and I liked the idea of Grog.
But instead of getting really dumb person roles, you got roles of, this dude is a university professor smart.
Not really. It was more like a 12 intelligence and 13 wisdom. He wasn't dumb, but he wasn't incredibly smart.
Mhm.
And basically what happened to Gothak was he was a guy that was very strong, very outgoing and helping. And then when the campaign turned for worse, we ended up dropping it because issues and things came up and we just stopped playing. So me and JC had this idea to throw him into this campaign, which we both thought would be really cool. And I said, hey, why don't we make him, like, he got so depressed that he lost everyone in his traveling party, that he just started drinking his heart out, and because he drinks hard liquor, he becomes less smart.
And he becomes his own brewery too.
And he gets brewer supplies and starts making his own ale. And he went from like a 13 or a 16 intelligence to a 6.
Yeah.
And he's been drinking very hard on the bottle for about 2 years. And when Graves came in, Gothak realized who he was. Because for my birthday, I was running a campaign that had Graves and a bunch of people, and we decided to make it combined for one day, and had this giant battle, and they exchanged words, and it was a one-time thing. But Graves was the only one that Gothak knew that Gothak knows is still around. So they got to talking and hung out drunk, and Gothak decided to come with them out of being afraid that he's going to lose his last friend that he knows is alive.
Mm-hmm.
So he came with them, and what the fuck did we do to start everything? Like, this town started to hate us.
Don't remember. I know it's not Port Midland that you destroyed. I know that.
No, that was Tallwater.
Tallwater.
Malin. It was fucking Gazaran. We were sitting there, and we were in the tavern, and he leaves the tavern and goes down to the goddamn docks. Oh my god, this fucker. Alright, so he goes down to the docks, and he goes searching for weapons. He finds this gunpowder shop. Oh, stupid fuck. So he goes to this shop, and he goes into the gunpowder shop, buys I believe he buys a pistol and then leaves and goes into the clothing store right next door. And he goes in and tries to steal everything. And the lady sits there and pulls a gun on him and tells him to put everything back. And he puts everything back and then tries to persuade her out of giving him all the money that she has and letting him keep whatever he wants. She doesn't like that and fires one bullet into his arm. He takes a substantial amount of damage, and he still stands there. And then she goes into the back room and brings out a fucking cannon. And he stands there and says, "You're not gonna shoot me with that." And she stands there and says, "Try me." As she then starts trying to light the fuse. And then he stands there. And he doesn't believe she's actually going to shoot him. And then he takes a cannonball to the chest. And he goes flying out of the shop into the water. And I sense it, that he just got massively injured. And me kind of being a metagamer right now, I know that he's being stupid, but my character would think that he's being stupid anyway. So I took away his powers so that he can't be able to use them. So he went back in and tried to use his power, and she just looked at him and shot him with another cannonball. He went flying out, and then he left for good. So he started walking, and he got 2 cannonballs to the chest. So he's walking up the... he's walking...
Towards the tavern again.
He's walking towards the tavern where we were, and the guards start following him and start pestering him for trying to steal. And trying to get him to pay up. So he turns around and punches the guards. And now the city is on our ass. So he comes into the tavern, says, "Hey guys, by the way, the entire city is now on wanted. I'm entirely wanted in the city. So we have to go because he's the only one that heals us." So we leave, and upon leaving, we meet the Roll20 characters.
The critical role
characters.
Jessica ends up going into the bedroom with Scanlan, blah 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 blah. There was that whole thing, which I found kind of meh.
Jessica admired Scanlan. He took her. They did things, and yeah.
I didn't go into much detail.
We actually ended up going to their house or whatever.
Scanlan's, what is it? Astro Mansion or whatever it is.
And we ended up knocking Gazaran out and putting him on a hook and putting him in the closet. And he just sat there, and he woke up and would start screaming. So, me being annoyed, I opened up a portal and went into the underworld and just sat there because that's a much better place to think. Because I don't have to listen to Gazaran screaming or the pounding upstairs.
Yep.
So
Well, all the pounding a gnome can do.
Just be thankful I'm not Grog.
Fucking scamming.
So, that was that. And
Didn't Gothak and Grog have... Or no, you and Grog
Gothak and Grog ended up being brothers.
Yep. And then you and Grog had like a sparring match in the tavern where he was throwing you around, you were throwing him around, and you were having like the best fun ever.
That was a great time. He threw Graves into a table. Graves got up and smiled. And Grog threw him into the wall and bashed his head into the wall. Graves punched him in the sternum, and then chokeslammed him and broke parts of the floorboard, almost putting him into the basement. And Grog got up and started laughing and said, "That's the best fight I've ever had."
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then we drank some more. And because I was the god of death, I didn't show physical pain. But of course, the character himself felt it. But it wouldn't show like that his face is bloodied.
At some point, you guys ended up getting back on the ship.
Oh
wait, no. This happened in Tallwater. That happened in Tallwater. You met the character. Yeah, because you guys went back on the ship in Port Malin, teleported to Tallwater Port for some reason, took port there, went into the tavern, met the Critical Role guys, had this fight, let Scanlan do whatever, and then afterwards, you guys were outside, and all of a sudden water started coming in through the door, and you guys ran outside to see what it was. The Critical Role guys went into their ethereal mansion and kind of just left.
We didn't teleport. We were traveling from Port Malin and going around to Tallwater Port because we were informed that they might need assistance there. So we were taking this 6-day trip around, and in the middle of that trip we ended up finding something.
Oh, yeah. You ended up meeting the Leviathan. So they met this Leviathan. I remember this because I described it as a foggy day. Everything seemed natural, but also unnatural at the same time. You look down. Jessica looks down, sees the shadow going under the boat, and you guys feel something drag across the bottom of the boat, and I remember your character going, "Oh shit," and Crash is just kind of going, "Come on." Gothak being drunk and out in his throne of cannonballs.
He literally made a throne of cannonballs, and before we encountered the Kraken, Leviathan, Kraken, same fucking thing. I actually went down there and took one cannonball out, and the entire throne fell, and he kind of rolled with the cannonballs straight into a wall, and that was funny as hell. Because he was half drunk and just completely bumbling around, and he just smashed his face onto a wall. It was just great.
Which, then the Leviathan, after scraping his back on the ship, came up, and Jessica, being Jessica, tried to persuade him that they weren't real. She just goes, "We are a figment of your imagination. I can see you. We are Mirage. I have the scuff marks on my scales from your ship. Those aren't real?"
"We aren't real. You're a figment of our imagination."
And then the one thing that actually did work, because I was having her roll persuasion checks for all of these.
He was freaking out, doing everything like, "We are not real. We're not really here. Dice!
He literally held out his game of dice. Dice? And he got like a nat 20 on persuasion for the dice, and I'm like...
No, he didn't. He didn't get... It wasn't that high of a roll for the bone dice, but you're like... Dice sounds fun.
I just thought, hey, why not?
That would be cool.
So the Leviathan shrinks itself down so that it can play a game of dice with these random people at sea.
Oh, I forgot Fenrir joined, so I'm not gonna bother going through to check the roll. Done a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Anyways, his story comes in later.
Oh, yeah. So, well, Fenrir joined, I think, the session after this.
He joined when we were in Malin. No, he joined when we were in Tallwater.
He joined right after you guys got to Tallwater. But, so they played the game of dice, ended up beating the Leviathan.
And he like, being an honor, he opened up his scales or whatever, and, like, 200,000 gold and rubies and shit just came out of his scales as he then got off the ship.
Yep.
And Crassus got a magistrate?
Magistrate?
Whatever that fucking wolf thing, whatever the fuck he had.
I don't remember.
It was like part griffin.
Oh, Manticore.
Manticore. And...
Or Chimera, whichever.
At the time, Jessica had a pseudo-dragon.
Yes. And you guys ended up getting to Tallwater, doing all this stuff with the Critical Role peoples and everything. And it was cool. Everything was going great. You went back out to the tavern after having slept in their ethereal mansion. And you saw water start coming into the tavern. This is after you met Fenrir, who...
Fenrir is a human monk. I believe he's human.
Yeah, hold on, I think he's a Dampier, but I will need to check.
He was a monk that was merely interested in adventure and payment.
No, he's a wood elf.
So, we kind of recruited him, and he joined willingly, and it was actually pretty interesting. Yeah. When we got to Tallwater, Graves, Crassus, Gothak, and Gazaran got off the ship, but matters pressed Jessica elsewhere with her father, so she had to depart.
So you guys ended up where there was water coming into the tavern, and something roared outside, and the Critical Role cast kind of just went into their ethereal mansion and left. And you guys went outside to see a Tarrasque marching its way out of the water, and you're kind of just like, oh shit, I'm gonna use my godly powers, put up this barrier, and hold it there. Because in my world, gods cannot fight them. Gods can't fight Tarrasques, because a Tarrasque is a god killer. So, you held up this barrier to try and keep the Tarrasque out while it's battering the fuck out of it. And everybody else, you told everybody else to run, which at first everybody else is like, okay, let's run. Gazaran being Gazaran, I'm going to run at it and jump on its leg.
He ran at it, and then Fenrir followed, and Crassus followed after that. And I'm just like, what the fuck are you doing? It will pick you up and eat you.
Which it ended up doing to Gazaran. It picked him up, put him in its mouth, and was doing 60 damage per round. Which he
was able to sustain himself with lay on hands.
For one round. For 1 round.
Exactly.
he sustained himself once, and then it did another 60 damage, and he's like, ow. Another 60 damage, ow. And then finally it spit him out. Because I'm running this thing, and you guys are just beating the hell out of it, trying to kill it.
Because
Biff, biff, biff,
we were originally trying to run, and, well, I told them to run, but then, because Gazaran runs up, then all of a sudden everyone wants to fight it. And this is after, while we were in Discord, Fenrir's player is a close friend of ours. His name is Nate. And he has kids and a wife, and he had said over Discord in the voice chat that he had to go for a second because his kid was crying. So Gazarin had made a comment, put bleach in his baby bottle.
And we kind of took exception to that. We didn't take exception to that at all. We wanted to... I wanted to eliminate his character right there.
That was not okay.
Honestly, but... And
he's like, well, it's a joke. I'm like, it doesn't fucking matter if it's a joke. That's someone's kid.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's a joke. It's no joke when you're saying stuff like that.
So, that's the point where we really started to dislike the guy. And after he almost died with the Tarrasque, he just kind of disappeared, which wasn't really a big issue. He wanted to play and told us multiple times, hey, if you want me to play, then just let me know and I'll hop on. And I told him every time we tried to play and to see if he would actually play better, but he never joined, so we ended up killing off his character eventually. Well, not really, but...
No, we killed him.
He's not technically dead yet.
Not just yet. You guys were just coming in to watch the assassination.
But now I'm wondering, how long have we been streaming? Oh shit, we've been live for 1 hour and 17 minutes.
Damn, rambling. But
it's a long ass story.
It is. It took us weeks to get through it.
It did.
And we finally killed the Tarrasque. Well, not really killed it, but injured it, and it dissipated into the literal god of death.
Who then sent you on the quest to find all 4 of them, because there are 4 Tarrasques left, and the gods need them to be eliminated. Like, they need this. Otherwise, the gods can't do anything. The Tarrasque will kill them.
And at this point was the point where the god of death took back his powers from the Avatar.
Yep. So you lost your godly powers.
Which I was okay with, because I started to see where I was getting overpowered with.
You were upset for a little bit, and then you were like, yeah, I understand now.
I was upset at first, because it's like, I had so many plans, and, like, I was not using the powers much. The one time I actually used the powers to actually kill something was when I first got them, and I pointed at three things, and they just fell over dead.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a little fucking crazy. So I didn't really use it until the barrier, and then once that's over, I'm like, what the fuck? Because, I don't know, it was just stupid. But before, when I was still the Avatar, while they were all in the mansion, when I went down to the underworld, I actually fell in love with this succubus. And we actually ended up getting married. So Graves has a wife named Mara, who is a succubus, and after the powers got taken away, she stayed with him as a gift.
Mm-hmm.
And so then he asked the god of death if he would like a drink. So then the god of death gave Graves the death's brew. Graves took it and is like, "Holy shit, that's good," as he face planted.
It's like he got out. Holy shit, that's good.
Gothak, the hard ass drinker comes over, picks up the cup, smells it. I won't even fuck with that shit.
I won't even fuck with that shit. No. No way. And he smelled it, he got somewhat drunk off of just smelling it and goes, I won't fuck with that shit.
It was good.
It really was. That was it's a great campaign, which I need to come up with more stories for. More storyline for. After that, you went to a town. I forget where you went.
Well, actually, we had to flee the town because
you guys
the water started attacking.
Basically what happened was the water had filled the city of Tallwater Port, and there were water elementals everywhere. They were killing people. They were just being enormous dicks. And a bunch of them, you guys got into a fight with a few of them, killed them, and then were getting chased by like hundreds of these water elementals, and you got to the city gates, and there's a bunch of guards that, and there are a bunch of magic users that had put up barriers to keep the elementals in the city so that there wouldn't be any more chaos outside. You guys got outside the city, and the elementals had to stop at the barrier, but they're looking at you like, we're gonna find you and kill you. And then you guys ended up walking to Ragfire itself, I believe.
We were traveling with a caravan with the survivors, and on our way, they actually got attacked by, I believe it was goblins or something like that.
I think so.
And we ended up killing them, but there were a number of casualties. And we eventually got to Ragfire, the capital, and Graves and Crash's father was at one point a soldier and had a note for both of them that Graves always carried, saying that he recommends that he would take them in and help them grow.
That the king would take them in and help them grow, yeah.
And hone their skills and hopefully become one of the generals in his army. So when we get there, come to find out that it's not actually the king, that the king died and his son is taken over.
But his son honors the note anyways.
And I forget what he does. But he requests that we go find some lost gold chests. Like chests of gold. And he gives us one of his uncle's estates behind the castle itself to stay in.
Oh, yeah.
And So we go and stay in the house, and then the next day we go out and search for these chests. We find the first one relatively easily, and we put it inside the instant fortress. And then right after we put the chest in the fortress, a dragon comes and steps on the carriage, crushing it. So we then proceed to murder the fuck out of this dragon.
And then
take its teeth.
Yep, and 2 more dragons come.
And one of them, an enormous ice dragon that ends up just freezing everything around you.
Which
you guys hid in a cave.
We hid in a cave and then it froze everything.
It's kind of just like, and it starts speaking in Draconic to another dragon that's with it. And Fenrir, I believe, spoke Draconic so he could hear what they were saying.
But he didn't speak out of his mouth. He used like telepathy or something.
Yeah.
And talked to him. And the dragon got really fucking pissed because he had no idea where the fuck he was. So the dragon started going ballistic, but
and you guys,
both dragons eventually left.
And you were told that either you go up into the mountains and get this gold, which would jeopardize a lot, because something is trapped in that mountain by the ice dragon that nobody wants to escape. And there are more than just the ice dragon and the other. There are maybe 20 or so dragons up in that mountain that make nests there and normally don't bother anybody, but sometimes they come down and just take what they need.
What I'm assuming, out of game that I assumed of what was up there is they're keeping like a Tarrasque up there just frozen in this giant iceberg.
Actually, it's not even that. It's more, they're keeping Tiamat frozen in the ice.
Why?
She is the evil goddess of dragons. She is the goddess of all chromatic dragons.
Mm-hmm.
Which are all evil. All of them. There is not a single good chromatic dragon. Now, she has the power of all chromatic dragons. Every color of the spectrum. Ice, fire, lightning, acid, all of them. And that thought is very, very scary. All of the dragons up on that mountain combined, she'd wipe them all out in one shot. She's a goddess dragon. That's a scary thought. You'd have to be a level 20 to fight her. And you'd need at least 5 players. Because she is just that bad.
But we ended up
as long as the ice dragon stays alive, though, she's not getting out of that mountain.
We ended up killing another dragon, one of the other 3. And then the third came, and we almost killed it. And then a mage came out of nowhere and cast a fireball, and the dragon flew away.
He cast a fireball, told the dragon, "You know you can't beat me." The dragon growled at him, understood that if he tried to attack again, he would get blasted with flames and die, so he left. And the wizard then, knowing that you guys were pissed because he basically just stole your kill, he kind of had to explain to you, hey, if you kill this dragon, you unleash something far worse.
Didn't we end up killing him there?
The wizard?
Yeah.
You almost did, yeah.
I'm pretty sure we actually did murder him.
One of you tried, I know that. I don't know if you actually did or I don't remember.
It was like I was about to do it, and I believe Fenrir, he pissed off Fenrir, so Fenrir punched him, and then we all just started murdering him.
Yeah, probably.
So then we went and found a little camp with, I believe it was like guards, and they are the ones that had the other treasure chest full of gold.
Mm-hmm.
And so we told them that the king needs it, and blah 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 blah. He starts saying, "Oh, how do I know that you're not just bandits trying to take this gold?" And then we hand him a slip that says, that's like a personal letter from the king, and then we get the gold, put it in the fortress, and go on our way. And as we were headed back to Ragfire, we are intercepted by these guys in black robes. And the guys in black robes take us.
You guys came upon a noble that was being attacked by them. He was killed, unfortunately, but you guys then were taken to the leader of the Assassin's Guild in Ragfire, who told you how to draw out the Tarrasques. Basically, the final 4 Tarrasques were connected to the 4 plagues of the apocalypse: war, famine, death, and one other. I forget the last one.
The way you said it was, they are the 4 horsemen.
Basically, yeah.
Pregnancy.
Yeah, death, famine, war, and conquest.
There you go.
So you basically need, for one, you need to start a war. Another, you need famine. For another, you need a lot of death. And for the last, you need someone to be trying to take over the world.
Well, technically, wouldn't death and war come out at the same time?
If you had a large enough battle, yes. Though that might be a bit hard to fight.
Not really.
Let's fight 2 Tarrasques at once. Yes, that's a great idea. 2 world enders at the same time.
Not what I'm saying. It's like, you start the war comes out, you kill war, then...
End of the war, there's so much death that death comes out.
Exactly what I'm saying.
Okay. I'm thinking to myself...
The last battle of the war, and there's 16 catapults, and just level everyone. Because instead of the rocks, you put giant fire pots.
Death comes out. You guys kill him. And then you only have famine and conquest to worry about, which are still tough.
If we kill 2 of them, wouldn't that count as conquest? Ish. No.
Actually, yes, it would, because you're now going on a conquest to kill the four Tarrasques. So Conquest would come out and be like, I'm going to kill you.
So then we kill those 3. Then we gotta figure out how the fuck to cause famine.
Famine is hunger, mass hunger. So you
Just
basically have to starve a city.
Hi, Ragfire. No supplies for a week. Why? Because we need to kill this world ender.
Wouldn't that bring him here? Then you'd have to worry about defending all the civilians.
They're on their own with their measly little lives and children.
That's terrible.
Well, he's like a true neutral character. He doesn't give a shit.
And that, my friends,
is the story of the ruins of Ragfire so far.
He's neutral.
Hopefully next time we'll have more stories from other campaigns and stuff. Thank you everybody for watching this hour and 36-minute video.
Which we're not even done with, because when we got back to the castle, they want to
kill the king, and you guys switched him out for Gazaran.
They wanted to kill the king to continue the war. And we told them about the assassination attempt, and that that they can kill a double, and it will start the war, but the king will survive. We replace the king with a fake king. You kill the fake king, and then we put him back on the throne to continue ruling over, but the war is going on. And right now, we have taken Gazaran, who is now broken, skinny, deprived of everything. We dressed him up in royal clothes and just threw him on the chair. And
I think someone cast a disguise spell on him.
Where we are now, no, we actually dressed him up in robes.
Oh.
And where we are now is like we're walking in to witness him get murdered.
Mm-hmm.
So yes.
That's where the story ends for now. Thank you everybody for watching. If you liked it, leave a like, subscribe, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. I just do this to entertain peoples. So, thank you everybody for watching.
Infinite windows.
Bye bye. Yes, look at the infinite windows.